So this is my second attempt at recording this video. The first time the microphone was not on. But I just want to talk about some keys, the primary keys and foreign keys, which are very important things to know if you plan on taking care of a database. So what is a primary key? A primary key is a way to uniquely identify something in your database. Okay? For example, let's say you get into a car crash and the person you get into the car crash with drives off. What is the best way to identify the car that you got into a crash with? Obviously, there are multiple ways. You can talk about the make of the car, you can talk about the model of the car, you can talk about the color, you could say if there's any dents in the side of the car. You could talk about the driver, their gender, and their age. You can make all of these things, but what's the issue with that? None of them are unique. If you say you got in a crash with a Honda Accord, okay? Oops, silver Honda Accord. Guess what? That's helpful. You're right, that does narrow it down quite a bit. I got in a crash with a silver Honda Accord. However, and this is very important, there are multiple silver Honda Accords on the road. Even if you then try to thin out the herd by saying, it had a dent, the driver was a certain ethnicity or something like that, there's no way to be sure. The only way to correctly identify that car that hit you would be the license plate. Why? Because the license plate is unique to that car and that car only. It's a unique identifier. It's the primary key of that card. Okay, because instead of saying silver Honda Accord, I can just say license plate 12X45. And that would be a particular car that is also hooked up to a particular person, a date when they got the car, and things like that. So that way we can connect a particular car to a particular person. Okay? Another quick example would be a social security number. One person, so let's say this is Bob. Let's say this is Bob, has one social security number. So anytime I reference Bob in the database, instead of referencing just the name Bob, because obviously there can be two Bobs, right? Instead of referencing the name Bob, I can reference him by his social security number. Why? Because even if there is 4,500 Bobs in my database, right, this unique number is going to be unique. So therefore, I can differentiate between this Bob and, let's say, for example, this Bob here, who is green. Okay? This way, my database knows there's a difference between these two, right? Even though their names are both Bob, this guy has an ID of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 versus 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. So you can see in this case, this is a one-to-one, but that's not the point. In this case, the social security number would be a primary key or a unique identifier for a person. Now, the reason this is so important is so we can reference a unique entity on a different table. So obviously, it's not that hard keeping up with things on the same table. But when we start to combine tables, that's when it becomes particularly useful. So, for example, let's go with that Bob example again. So let's bring Bob back. So let's get rid of this here first. And let's say we're trying to hook up. So let's go back to that first example. We're trying to find whose car crashed into you, okay? So I'm not going to go with the SSN because generally on a table, the ID is auto created by the database. So it's probably just going to be like 1 and 2 over here. So let's roll with that. However, so on the users table, it's going to look like this. name over here, ID over here, okay? So this is the users table, right? But however, on the cars table, all we're going to see, and this is all we need to see because we have our foreign keys. So over here, the license plate, we would have, so obviously these would have IDs as well, but I'm not going to write that down right now. Well, technically the license plate could be the primary key on this table because they're all unique, but that's not the point. So 12X45 and then 12A45, right? So this would be plate number, and then this would be user over here, just be number 1, number 2. And here's the thing, and this is why it's important to know about keys, because on their own these are just random numbers, 1, 2. However, these things, they're not completely random actually. They're referencing these IDs over here. It's just not taking their name. So in reality, even though it's referenced as the number 1 and the number 2, in essence, it's really just Bob and Bob. However, if I wrote that down, we wouldn't be able to differentiate. That's why we need foreign keys. And one thing that really tripped me up when I was first learning about these is realizing that foreign keys are just primary keys referenced on a different table. So over here, these guys are the primary key, but over here, I just realized you can't see my hand hovering over this. Over here, it's the primary key. Over here, it's the foreign key, even though it's the same number referencing the same entity, it's just on a different table. So the main takeaways is that the primary key is a unique way to identify anything, an entity in your database. That is not how you spell identifier. And the foreign key here is essentially the primary key on a different table referencing that first entity. It sounds pretty convoluted, but I promise it's not. It's a really key, important thing to know as far as databases go. All right.